think that's my whole life, truth be told, man. Because if I think about the statistical categories that I would fit in, technically I'm not supposed to be much of anything at this current moment. So the fact that I was able to have a successful marriage that's still going 14 years strong, the fact that I have 2 kids that are loving, that even when I have to be the disciplinarian dad, they still like, what's going on? Like, what are you about to do? I have a doctorate, I have a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, I have a successful business. The fact that I'm able to still have those things just goes to show that you can, despite your beginnings or whatever is taking place in your life, you still have a choice in which direction you go, you know?
Hey, family, this is Che Willis coming back with another episode of the Wealth is a Journey podcast. Fam, we have been doing this Dope Dad series. This is our 4th week now. And I got somebody special on here, man. I got somebody very special on here. Dr. James Daniels. Dr. James Daniels is one of the people that I talked about how can I say this nicely? He said my episodes was trash.
Wow.
He said the lighting, he said the sound, he said, fam, what are you doing right now? Like the first couple episodes, they was pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. The information was good. The lighting and the sound and all that was bad. I can admit that. But I'm able to take feedback. You know what I'm saying? And when you're on your journey, you need to be able to take feedback. My man gave me the feedback and I took it and ran with it. And I appreciate him, man. This guy is a very, very good dude. He's my frat brother, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yeah. This is my guy. And we've known each other for many, many years now. I met him at the Church Seeds of Greatness that I talk about all the time in my episodes. He's been an entrepreneur highlight. James, welcome to the Wealth is a Journey podcast, bro.
I'm just happy to be here, you know, on this platform. I didn't say trash, man. I said that you could do it better because you got a good amount of information that the people need. So quality, you know, it keeps them coming back.
That's a fact.
I do video for a living. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. You gave me a couple. You gave me a couple pointers. Told me what I needed to do, and I took it and ran with it. But when you're on your journey, bro, you need people that are not just going to be yes people. And whatever journey you're on, ours is, you know, the wealth is a journey, and good content is going to keep the people coming back, like you said. And you need people in your corner who are going to keep it real with you and tell you when your stuff is trash. And but you kind of did though. Like you pulled me to the
trash though, because you know.
But you might as well have. But it's cool. Don't even worry about it, fam. You still my guy. You still my guy. But James Daniels, he's been again entrepreneur highlight on here. Don't Judge Me Productions. So James, tell them exactly what Don't Judge Me Productions is all about.
All right. So first off, Dr. James Daniels the third. I gotta pay homage to the generations. You know, it's 3 of us. So but for Don't Judge Me Productions, man, it's a photography, videography company. I started it actually in 2012 and basically went, I guess, professional side, everything legitimate in 2014. So we specialize in basically trying to capture life's most precious moments. You know what I'm saying? We like to get those memories, and we do that through various forms like weddings, birthday parties, events, even up to feature films. So we've done quite a few different things.
Oh man, see, and that's what I'm talking about. Like the one thing that I love to see personally is people's journey, their own personal journeys. And I remember you worked with us many, many, many years ago. And just to see now you're doing films, you're doing videos, you're working with corporations.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, bruh. And
nice.
Again, one of the reasons that you were selected to be on here, and I appreciate your time, first of all, is because I believe that, again, men particularly black men, don't necessarily get the best rep out there. We're deadbeats. We're this. We're that. We don't take care of our kids. We try to live off of people and so forth and so on. And I believe that we need to change the narrative. See what I did there? See that? Right.
I see
right. You see okay. All right. Cool. So but for real, we need to change that narrative. And I know a bunch of dope dudes that are dads that are out here doing their thing, taking care of their kids, taking care of their wives. They're faithful to their wives. And they're doing great things out here in this world and setting that example. And I believe that those things need to be highlighted more. And I'm using my platform to do that. And again, I appreciate your time, man. But I believe to be a dope dad, you need to have examples, whether they're bad examples or good examples of how you grew up. Right. So let's go back to the beginning and talk about where you grew up.
Whew. All right. So childhood was kind of traumatic. It was kind of bad.
Okay.
But
we gonna go wherever this gonna go, this gonna go.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So
yeah,
it is funny thinking about it too, because I was like, oh man, he gonna ask me about that. So so my parents were together in my early years, but they got divorced also in my early years. So I was bouncing around basically for different places. So I want to say I didn't get stable with my actual father until I was 13.
Okay.
That's what brought me to Delaware. That's what got me to this amazing state. Something like that. That's what got me here. And, I had this whole dream and vision of what that was going to be like. And it was the complete opposite of it. But again, you said that, and I realized this years later that even with a bad example, you can get some lessons from it. So, I hate to put my dad out there, but that's essentially what I got from him. I did get some good things. I did get some things I can hold on to. Like, that's why I always say, oh, I'm the third. So I want to make sure people know that we have the same name. So I'm not the junior, I'm not the senior, I'm the third. So I'm the next edition of this James Daniels clan. And it's like 1,000 of us too, man. I got uncles with the same name, but so I try to take as much as possible as far as like whatever is going on in those situations. But I ain't gonna lie to you, man, father figure was kind of tough to find a positive one throughout life. So.
Yeah, that's good, and I'm glad you brought that up. We'll probably end up circling back to that because I believe that good or bad, you have an example, and how it made you feel to be treated a certain way or not to be treated a certain way. So I believe that you can learn a lesson from anything. If you didn't like being treated a certain way, okay, well, when I have kids, I'm not treating my kid that certain way.
Right.
So you can learn something from that. And I don't want the guys who are watching this to, and again, that's one of the reasons I had you on here, because having that excuse of, because I was parented bad, I'm going to treat my kids bad. That's no excuse. If you didn't like it, then don't do it to your kids. Like me and Gary had a conversation on our podcast episode last week, and I talked about, and during our conversation, it like came up in my head, like if my dad's dad didn't have his dad, and then it passed down to generation to generation to generation, like my dad may not have had his dad. My dad wasn't in my life either, like for the majority of my life growing up. Like, and then in order for me to have a relationship with him, I had to call him. So my thought was, he did that because maybe that was done to him. But if he knew how that made him feel, why would you do it to me?
Yeah. Questions that need answers, man.
That's what I'm saying. So for you to be on this platform and be a dope dad means that you're taking care of your kids, even though you didn't have the best example. And that's no excuse. So I'm just showing people, and you're showing people, that it's possible to not have that example and still come out on the other side.
Yeah, I think that's my whole life, truth be told, man. Because if I think about the statistical categories that I would fit in, technically I'm not supposed to be much of anything at this current moment. So the fact that I was able to have a successful marriage that's still going 14 years strong, the fact that I have 2 kids that are loving, that even when I have to be the disciplinarian dad, they still like, what's going on? Like, what are you about to do? I have a doctorate, I have a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, I have a successful business. The fact that I'm able to still have those things just goes to show that you can, despite your beginnings or whatever is taking place in your life, you still have a choice in which direction you go, you know? Yeah.
For us, it's I mean, it's real, and these conversations need to be had, man, because we need to get all the excuses out of the way of, hey, I was treated this way and what have you. And there are a lot of, like I said, there are a lot of dads out here doing their thing, and you're one of them. And just know, and I'll probably say it again later on, but that you're appreciated, man, because that's another thing. I don't think that, not me specifically, not you specifically, but us as a whole are not praised enough, I guess I'll say, for doing the job that we're doing.
Yeah.
And being faithful, being good citizens, going to church and doing all the things that we should be doing.
Right.
But it's hard too.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's not recognized on the same level of other things that we might celebrate 1,000%. Like, I hate to do this, but I got to. Mother's Day and Father's Day are like 2 completely different. One is a holiday. Exactly. One is a holiday. The other one is a day. That's it. Like, it's beyond me. But I got a dope wife, so she recognizes that. Like, I'm sure same thing. They recognize that, so they give us those flowers.
Yeah,
and it's needed. I will say that, because if you keep looking like the news or statistics about Black dads, you will really question, am I doing enough? Am I a dope dad? There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm a pretty simple dude, man, and most guys are, bro. Like, I just want to get me a round of golf and let's maybe go to dinner. I'm simple.
Yeah.
It's not crazy.
Not rocket science.
Yeah, man. But now, man, you're absolutely right. Now, as far as your dad goes, like, what was his parenting style?
So my dad's parenting style was actually hilarious, because the last time that I lived with him when I was 5.
Okay.
So how I wound up not living with him is just a crazy story, basically. But so he had me for 1 year by himself, 5. And then the next time I lived with him was 8 years later. So it's like he remembered me as a 5-year-old kid, but now he got a 13-year-old young man. So it's just, but my father, I judged him based off his intentions. I knew what he meant, what he was trying to do. So that's essentially the credit I try to give him, especially as a young kid, because at 13, he could do no wrong. Boy, I was like,
oh yeah,
you about to take over the world. It's junior and the third. I don't know what that's going to mean, but it's going to mean something. So his style was more so like, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to have this conversation with you. I'm not going to give you specific instructions. I'm going to give you some cryptic messages, but you're going to understand them because you're smart. So, like I heard your conversation with Derek. I think it was about the birds and the bees. And I thought about my conversation with my
man.
It was a one-liner. That man gave me one line. He said, when you go in, make sure you wear a hat. And he walked off. That's all he said to me. I just was like, what? This is 14-year-old me too. Like, what? Go in where? What am I? Oh,
where am I going?
All right, man. I get what you're saying. He was hilarious for that, though, which is good comedy, man.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So you said that you grew up with him and you were 13 years old, and then what was one of the best lessons that you learned from your dad?
Ah, man. So I think the best lesson I learned from him was, and it comes out of, unfortunately, like pain. So that just goes to show that you can learn from the traumatic experiences. But his marriage to my stepmother, his wife, I didn't agree with it. My siblings didn't agree. There was a lot of fighting and stuff like that. But I learned that no matter the circumstances, he loved her. Like he loved her pretty hard. So it was like, I remember one time I was like, man, like the day of his wedding, this just goes to show how outspoken I am. I was like, man, you sure you want to do this, man? You got my brother over here crying, my sister not happy. I'm like, this is not a good way to start a marriage. And he was like, I love her, man. You know, I want to do this. So I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna rock with you, but if this goes south, I'm going back to Ohio. So that obviously didn't happen. But he loved her through everything, you know, through her rights, through her wrongs, through the bickering, through the arguments, the disagreements, regardless of what came up against them two as a couple, his love never faded. It never waned. And he put his all into his marriage to a fault, actually. It was almost like, hey man, I don't know if you know, but you got kids too. I just want to toss it out there. But like I said, he really, like, married life, he was all about it. So I didn't get that great lesson from him. Again, born out of pain and stuff like that. But I'm trying to find more and more positive things that came out of that experience, especially because I got my own kids and I'm trying to make sure I do things right the first time.
So he was more so wrapped up in your stepmother more than he was to kind of take care of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you know, it's funny, man. We just had a conversation about the generation. He probably did that because maybe that's the way he was raised. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. His parents were divorced too, though. So that's another crazy thing. Because, you know, like his mother and his dad, you know, James Sr., they had separated after his youngest brother was born. So I know that was probably something that bothered him, you know, divorce. He was like, oh man, it didn't work with you guys, Mom, but this is my second shot at this. I got to make this work. You know? That's another reason why now that I'm older, a little bit wiser, got a little bit more experience, which my grandmother told me, keep living. So, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I see now his intentions may have been pure, but sometimes he just couldn't pull off the execution. So, for sure. You know, I mean, like I remember having big moments in school or having big moments, say, in sports and stuff like that. If he could make it, he would. But most of the time, he was at work. So he's got to make a living. And I wholeheartedly understood that. Very hardworking man. But it would just be some moments when I'd be like, I need you to be here during this journey. I need you to be here during this process. Don't show up at the end, which used to bother me a lot. Is actually a picture of me graduating from the University of Delaware. We have this ceremony where your parent gets to speak about you. Yeah. And he was so late to this ceremony that I had to have one of my pro fights on standby. Like, man, can you just introduce me and say something nice? Wow. And by the time he got there, it was literally I was the next person up. So I don't know how he got in this building. It was a very resourceful day, but I don't know how he got in this building, but he was just there. And in the picture, my head's tilted like, all right, you just chatting right now. But you know, he was so proud though. So I was just like, let you had this moment, man. Just you might need this more than I do. So that was always my thought process too, because there was always so much craziness going on that I was just like, well, you know what? Let him have this, because this might make his day. This might make his year, if you will. You know, I know he loves bragging about his kids. So it's like, all right, bet, you know. I mean, I talked to you for months. Months.
So you knew this was coming up.
Months. But go ahead, tell him about how I defended my dissertation, or how I became a doctor. I became a professor at college, man. I'm glad you enjoying that, because, you know, despite it all, you know, you did play a role in some way, shape, or form. So have it.
Hey, bro, it sounds like a story of perseverance, man. Like you had to fight through a lot of different things to get to where you are, man. And then kind to be, it sounds like having to be your own kind of cheerleader, because he wasn't necessarily around like to physically cheer you on because he was out working and, trying to create a living. And I think that kind of ended with us, because I think a lot of parents now will miss work to be at their kids' games, and you go to soccer and things like that on the weekends, and all the parents are there. And I think a lot of that may be because when they were kids and we were kids, a lot of our parents didn't go to those games. So even though it was a bad situation for you, it kind of taught you that lesson of, all right, well, I'm gonna make sure that I'm at my kids, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Because I'll say this, when I started, I learned to play basketball because he played. So he was my first basketball coach. And when I was playing in like the summer leagues when I first got here, when he would show up at the game, I got to
Oh, you would go crazy.
I got to go all out. Let me get this crossover. Oh, that's a carry. All right, I'm gonna try it again anyway. But like, I ain't gonna lie to you, when I didn't see him at select events, nowadays when my kids say, "Hey, Dad, are you gonna come to, my lacrosse game or anything like that? Are you gonna come to watch me sing 5 songs for 30 minutes outside?" Absolutely, I'm gonna be there. I do work a lot, so like my dad, I'm constantly working. But I do know now the purpose behind being present. So I know what that felt like as a kid. So I make sure that I don't make them suffer because of some things that I had to endure or that I had to work through my own childhood.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question is what's one of the things, which I think you probably answered unless you can come up with something else. One of the things that your dad did to you, for you, that you said, I'm never doing this when I get kids.
Aside from the showing up, I also want to make sure, and I'm not doing the greatest job at this, but it's on my list. So I want to make sure that as much as I'm into my wife, I'm into my kids. So, and that means, so like when we pray, we always say, especially if I'm leading it, I always pray for us collectively and individually, because it's 4 individuals in my house, right? So when it comes time to have time with the wife, I got time with the wife. When it's time to have time with both kids, I'm with both kids. And recently, my son, he's 12 now. So I told him he couldn't watch a certain show on Netflix until he was 12. I should have said later, but whatever. We're figuring this thing out as we go. But that time came, he turned 12. Now he was like, "Hey, do you want to watch it tonight?" And normally I'd be like, I got to do some work. But now I see that he's 12. And my wife were talking, we only have 6 more years of him in the house, technically. So I'm like, okay, well, let's watch this show. Man, we messed around and watched like 8 episodes the other day. Into it, like, hold up, watch this. You gotta watch this. It's dope, man. I try to be as intentional as possible about my time, making sure that it's spent where it's supposed to be versus where it could be. Or that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur too, is I can set my schedule at the moment. So outside of that, man, just the presence and just being present, man. That being present thing is important.
Yeah, you're 100%, bro. And I'm having, or at one point in time, I was having a different effect. So I work and I get home at a certain hour. Then either I'm working out or I'm doing something, reading or something that I can do for myself. Then I might have to cook, or I might have to watch clean the kitchen, whatever. But at a certain time, me and my son, we read the Bible and we pray. And at a certain time, I don't care what I'm doing. I could be with my wife. At that time, when we're supposed to be doing that, then that's where I get up and go. And at times I felt like I was neglecting her to pour into him because I know what this is going to do for him.
Right.
So trying to find that balance, if there is even such a word, is tough, man. It's really tough, man. But and a lot of the things I intentionally do with him is because I know how it is not to have somebody around or somebody to talk to, or whatever it is, because I grew up like I was the only child for 10 years, and then I went to live with my grandma because the school system was better where I was at. So I grew up around all adults. And my brother, who was born, he lived with my mom and dad in Philly. So I really didn't get to hang out with him and so forth and so on. I mean, I did on the weekends, but I'm saying all that to say I know how it feels not to have somebody to really talk to and play around with or stuff like that. Like I didn't really play around with people because I grew up around all adults. Like it was anyway. But so you said you have 2 kids.
I do.
You have 2 kids, and what are their names and ages? And just talk about them a little bit.
Sure thing. All right, it's brag time. No, I'm just playing.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
It really is though, because you know what I mean. I try to be more purposeful in telling them this more often too. But we have my son. Prayed for him to come out first. Jason Caleb. He was born June 8th. He is 12 years old. I cannot believe it. Oh my God. There's no manual at this point. So we got him. That's my genius. Mm-hmm. I call him a genius to this day, regardless of what he's doing, even when he is doing something completely ungenius-like. Now, for a person of your caliber and intelligence, you think this was the wisest decision to do? That's my reader. He is one of the most compassionate kids I know, which is dope. He's also a reader of people. So that's why he going through preteen time. So it's really getting him up out of here. But he definitely will stay to the side and scan the audience like he's.
I see it.
Oh, you've seen it.
I see it. I see it. I peeped it. Yeah.
But if he cool with you, oh, what's up, man? Or even if he is cool with you, yeah, what's up? You look like you have a day like that. Yeah. Then we have London Aubrey, who is 9 years old. She might be the nicest kid I've ever met. Hands down. Like she's nice. She takes after her mom though with that though. She's also a very compassionate kid. She's also a genius, and she just knows what to say. She was in front.
She's hilarious too.
She is, and that's
hilarious.
That's a combination of both parents. I'll say that. So she is everything she needs to be at that moment. She can do it. Like she revels in the spotlight. She stood up in front of that church on Sunday and just was talking as if it was just 2 people there. But that's what she does, man. She's a fighter too. So that's one of the strongest kids I know. So both of my kids they're both scholars. They're both very compassionate, family oriented. So I definitely give my wife credit for that because that's not how I grew up. So it's not, man. I lived with each of my siblings, but in time periods, which is just crazy in itself. You know, I think that used to it bothered us up until a certain point, but now we're older, so now we're trying to figure it out, which is good, but it's just like, man. So I make sure that both of them are like tight, thick as thieves, even though at this current stage, I feel like argument is the new communication. So get out of here, get out of my room. I'm like, technically it's my room. I still, we're renting it. But yeah, they dope kids, man. Great
okay, kids. Good. That's what's yeah. So I wanted you to just briefly touch on something that your daughter just did. I thought was fire. And this was before I thought about having you on here. And she did that, and then they came up in front of church last week, and I'm like, yo, that was so dope, man. So what did she do?
And so my daughter, she basically told my wife one day that she wants to do a lemonade stand, and she wants to take all the money from the lemonade stand and donate it to the children's hospital. She had 2 hospitals that she was choosing between. It was Nemours over AI in Wilmington, and then also Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, because she's actually a patient at both. She goes to both of those hospitals. So my wife, Oh, my wife is always off. She's just always with it. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a good idea, she's let's do it. So
Yeah.
basically, we found out later on that July 15th is National Lemonade Day for Wilmington. So it was like, okay, well, we have the date. My wife built the entire lemonade stand. I have no credit. I didn't paint. I didn't nail a nail. I didn't do any of that. All I did was film and take pictures because that's all I was asked to do. Plus, she got it. So she built the stand. She built the stand. We bought all the supplies. We got everything together. And on July 15th, man, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., that little girl was serving lemonade throughout the community, charging $2 a cup. And she was able to raise $1,000, man. People were coming out of nowhere, not even just in our neighborhood, man. But we had a lady drive over here in her beautiful car, BMW. It was beautiful, but she drove over, and I saw she had a $50 bill in her hand. I was like, oh snap! I think we got change for that. Let me check. So she gave of course, we were teaching my daughter at the same time entrepreneurship. So you're a business owner now, so you have to address each customer, greet them, take their order, ask if they want one of your snacks that you got in the back, see whatever that the customer, you got to make them feel good. It's a good experience.
Sure.
That lady said, I just want a cup of lemonade and I just love what you're doing. So keep the change. And then we had about 15 other people do the same exact thing or just come up to donate. So, and she smiled, she greeted everybody, she took pictures with people. So it was just dope, man. My neighbors dope too, because they brought a fan out there and boy, it was hot. That fan came in clutch, man. I mean, it even started raining at one point. I mean, granted, we might have had something to do with this, but she stayed outside. She still was serving lemonade in the rain, still smiling. So it's like a gift that she has, man. She just makes people's hearts warm. And it was really nice, especially for her to be able to have an idea, have a goal, have a dream, and us be able to help her bring it to reality. So it was really nice, man.
That's a big deal, man. For her to have that in her heart, to want to be able to serve people, to make money, to then give it out to other people who are in need. And she's in need as well. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was fire, bro. So hats off to you and your wife for, I mean, because it has to be something that you guys are doing in the home. And obviously it has to be something that's already inside of her to want to do. But to have that spirit of generosity, it has to come from either both of y'all or one of y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's huge, man. So hats off to y'all, man.
Appreciate it, man. I mean, doing something right,
What's up, family? So hopefully you guys are enjoying the episode so far. I don't know if you know or not, but I help families who are living paycheck to paycheck live the life that they want to live through budgeting and investing. So if this is you, you can book a free discovery call at thewealthisajourney.com. If we are a good fit to work with each other, you can book another call afterwards. But if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you are sick and tired of having more month than money at the end of the month, book a free discovery call at thewealthisajourney.com. We have answers for you. If this is you or you know somebody, wealthisajourney.com. Wealthisajourney.com. Let's get back to that. One thing, bro, that I am or at one point in time, and I think I still kind of struggle with it. And I just came to the realization actually, is realizing what's important to my kid. I only have one. Because the things that are important to me because of what I didn't have as a kid, or things that I didn't have. Meaning that I go hard about financial literacy because I didn't, my parents were phenomenal. They did exactly what they had to do, what they needed to do to give us the life that we had. My grandmother, the same thing, the hardest working woman that I know. I loved her. She's been gone from the earth for a long time. I think about her all the time because she was so powerful. But what was important to me was learning about money, how money works, what money can do if you have it, if you manage it properly, things of that nature. So what I'm doing with my son is teaching him these things now. He could care less. And the reason I know that is because every time I show him his investment account, he's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go play Roblox now. I'm like, fam, do you know what's going on right now? You obviously don't.
Money in here?
But I think it's important to know what's important to your kids. So then you can build on that and build that relationship with them, because and I'm kind of going all over the place, but I'm kind of tying it all in. I used to get spankings a lot, but I believe if you have the relationship with your kid, you can just talk to them, and then they know that you're not playing, and you know what time it is by just the tone and the shift in the tone of your voice. And I think you can do that just by having that relationship with your kid. And I think you can have a better relationship if you know what's important to them. I'm saying all that to say that. So my question to you is, what's important to your kids? And have you found that out, that you kind of push what was important to you on them, and then realize like, okay, maybe I need to slow up a little bit. Maybe I need to back up and kind of figure out what's important to them so we can build this relationship. Does what I said make sense at all?
Yeah. So you're basically trying to say, do I know what's important to the kids?
Yeah.
Now, yeah. So I equate it to like their love languages, right? So both of my kids, quality time, physical touch. That's between the two of them. So early on, like yourself, I was thinking like, hey, this is what I didn't have. You're going to have this. Especially for my son. I think I'm the hardest on him because, the only thing that was highlighted was, oh, James is intelligent. Or I was about to say Jay too. Like, wow, that's funny. Go back. Nobody calls me Jay in Delaware. So that's just family. So it's kind of
all right.
funny.
That's about to change now, buddy.
Hey man, listen.
No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
If it did, I'd be like, how do you know me? Nah, but so I definitely used to push that on him. But then I realized that for my son, he won't receive it. He'll do it because I want him to, but he won't put his all effort into it. And all that does is make me frustrated. It's like, why don't you want to do this? What's wrong? I don't know what the problem, like this is a great opportunity, but to him, it's not. It has nothing to do with what he wants to do. So what I started doing is my son more recently, gaming has been like that's his thing. He's locked in, to the point where he has random information about a particular game. And in the beginning, I used to just be like, I don't play that game, man. I have no idea what you're talking about. But now in the last year or two, I'll let him get it out. Like, go ahead, tell me what you like. And then I'll start diving into it more so that not only is he looking at it for the surface level, but he's also looking into it for, say, the business aspect, or looking into it for the creative aspect, because those are two things that he's shown interest in. So it's still not fine-tuned because of, puberty is getting my man up out of here. But
okay.
Yeah,
that's fair.
But still, like here and there, I still try to make sure that I'm like, hey, is this something that you're interested in? Because if it is, let's explore. Let's see, what do we want to do with this? I'm trying to get him to start making some of the harder decisions, or just decisions in general, because he's 12, you know what I'm saying? And it's going to come a time when he has to make a choice, and I want his comfort level to be there. So I always have a hidden lesson for my man.
Yes, sir.
Now, like my daughter, she's all about people. So she just wants to make people feel good and say whatever to get that done. Literally whatever. And I think that's why people think she's so funny. But half the time you'll see me like, oh my gosh, what is she gonna say? I literally have no idea. But right now she is truly like learning about herself more and more. And then with the lemonade stand, she got a glimpse into kind of my life when it comes to entrepreneurship. So she already is really good at making people feel good, but now she was providing a service. So she already wants to do lemonade stand for next year because,
wow.
I was able to she was like, what'd she say the other day? I was able to give $1,000 to Nemours. I was like, yeah, that's a good thing. She's like, yeah, we're gonna run it right back next year.
Let's go.
Maybe we'll give more than 1,000. I was like, maybe, we'll see. But we still got the lemonade stand. It's in the garage because why not, man? Plus, my wife spent a lot of time on that, so I can't just give that away.
Yeah, nah, you can't do that. You got to hold on to that.
Yeah, but I think both my kids are really still evolving into themselves. It's like I see that, especially because I work in the school system for 13 plus years, but I see that they're at like the end of one phase and going into another stage of their development. So we're always trying to capitalize on it. We keep them reading almost regardless of what it is. As long as it's going to nurture the brain, make them thinkers, we're all for it. Plus, they live in a house with 2 educators with masters.
They're going to get this education.
They're going to get this education, man. Like, you got to learn something out of the day, man. So I know this summer, and I started it the other night, they're both learning about money, because I asked my son, hey, man, what do you think about money? Like, what do you think the purpose of money is? And he was like, to buy stuff. And I was like, oh, we got a lot to do.
Here's another lesson coming, son.
Yeah. So I started mapping out, like, do you know the denominations? Do you know this? Do you know that? And then also, I know my son knows money's for spending, but when it comes time to spending it, he's not comfortable at the register. So it's like, all right, bet. Let's start working on that. Let's start building up your advocacy strength or muscle, because I never want him to shut down. I seen what that's like, especially when it was caused by me. So it's like, I can't do this again. So I need to make sure that if you ever get into a situation where I'm not there, you are ready to give up whatever information you need to make sure that the rights or the wrongs are righted. And then also you are able to communicate how you feel. I never want him to feel like he can't do that. Because how I was raised, oh, you a punk. Like you ain't no crying. You know what I'm saying? Ain't none of that soft stuff. You sharing feelings. You're not allowed to have feelings. What are feelings? Those are for girls. Like, and it's also because I think who was around me at the time, but still, I grew up with that mindset, and it lasted up until becoming a parent, up until the last few years. And now I'm like, man, my son is really in touch with his emotions. He knows how he feels.
Yeah.
Because of my upbringing and how I pretty much projected those feelings, or the way I've highlighted those feelings, it now looks negative for him to have them. So I got to scale that back. Bro, tell me how you feel, man. Like,
yeah,
all you got to do is maintain respect in your tone, and you can say whatever you need to express yourself. So I know that's something we didn't get to do as kids. You was a child, so you stood in a child's place.
Yeah.
And sometimes I be thinking, I don't care what you think. Like you but I try.
Bro, and just getting over that, I don't know if you want to call that trauma, but the fact that you could never express your feelings, and now I'm calling myself in my head a soft parent because I haven't spanked my son in, I don't even remember the last time I spanked, but I remember getting spanked, and I'm like, hey, I turned out okay. He'll be okay.
Yeah.
But being able to express yourself and talk about your feelings and stuff like that is huge, because if you don't and you keep that stuff bottled up, pause, you're going to explode on somebody at some point, and it's not going to be good. You know what I'm saying? It's and I think that's probably why we have a lot of angry teenagers and hormones and all that stuff but even people in their 20s and 30s and stuff like that, because they weren't able to show emotions. So they kept it bottled up, and then somebody caught it as a result.
That was me, especially when I first got to Seeds, man. I was mad.
I remember. I used to say to myself, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I used to say to myself, why is he so angry, man?
Hey, man, life. Man, life.
And I'm like, I think you're a good dude. I mean, I don't really know you that well yet, but like, fam, is it that bad?
Yeah, man.
Well, maybe it was.
It was. It really was, man. I was just, and then the crazy part is, I married a great person who, her life is the complete opposite of mine. Hers is the Cosby's. I'm over here in PJs. Like, it was not the same. And it was hard to, because you whole life, like especially with the times that I wasn't with even with my dad, I can say that. When I lived with my grandmother and no parent, the only male figure was my grandfather, who spent most of his time in a bottle, and then his son, who his definition of raising a kid is making sure that you're not soft. You need to like some of the things that he used to do to discipline us caused a rift between me and my younger brother, make us fight each other as a punishment. And then also he just, anytime you cry, you're a punk, you soft. You can't fall asleep on the couch because you're tired in the nighttime, water now getting thrown on you. So this is the guy that I got, unfortunately, mentally training me through the years. So all the times I'm mad at that from how life things just turned out. I remember even being upset with the fact that, I'm going to a school production or something like that, and nobody's in the audience for me. So all types of memories is coming back. And when I see a person not appreciating like a good parent, just a good thing, it makes me past mad. I left mad about 7 steps ago, because it's like, man, you don't understand. Like, there are people who don't even know their parents, let alone their dad, right? And that's the biggest thing too, which annoys me as well. So I had a lot of things I was just mad about, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. But once that boy was born, I made a hard stop on a lot of things, man, because it was like, I can't pass this down.
That's good that you recognize that, because I think a lot of us allow our emotions to kind of take over, and you can stop. Like this, the generational curses or whatever you want to call them, they can stop with you. But you have to recognize it and be willing to say, nah, I can't do that, because I know how that feels. I remember how that feels. Man. So you said something about you and your wife coming together. And you guys were from opposite spectrums as far as like the way you guys grew up. How was parenting like coming together from that one side to her being raised in like you said, like the Cosbys? And the reason I ask that is because my wife and I would say her upbringing was maybe a little bit rougher than mine was, but we came from similar backgrounds with dysfunctional, home environments or whatever the case may be in certain areas. But I used to spank my son, but she was like, nah, don't do that. So how did you guys kind of navigate how to parent together?
So initially it was just, I'm the disciplinarian. So, and I, at a certain point, I had to sit her down and say, I don't like this role, because one day my son was in the house. My wife was about to head out. Actually both kids. And they were like, hey mom, where you going? She was like, oh, I'm going out. Said, can we come? No, you're staying here with your dad. And they was like, oh. When they said that, it broke my heart. So I was like,
wow. Like what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, like clearly I'm the second favorite parent, but at least I'm second. I'm thinking of the positives here. But no, when it comes to the kids, man, my wife is definitely true to that master's degree she has in counseling. She wants to know how they feel. She wants to hear them out. For me, I had some of the old school mentality of a child should stay in a child's place. You do as I say because I said so. Do as I say, not as I do. All the things that we typically had in the very beginning, right? But as they get older, we start merging more towards a common ground when it comes to we both want to hear them out, because now I'm thinking, well, physical discipline is still going to take place in our house, but you have to get to a certain level to get there. Like, that's not the first option. Even though I used to brag early on, being like,
long time ago. Long time ago. Yeah.
Years ago.
People are watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, man, my kids, they good. They good. But no, at one point, man, I actually went on this journey thanks to Pastor Jerome. He said that you can whoop your child all day. You can physically discipline them, spank them, whatever. But if you can change their mindset about misbehaving and things like that, you'll win the battle that much easier. And I think adopting that philosophy actually helped me out, especially with my son, because that's the first kid. He's the firstborn. He's the first, I hate to say it like this, but in parenting, we're pretty much experimenting, man. We don't really know what we're doing with this particular piece of clay. So once I adopted that with him, it actually helped out a lot, because it was like, all right, so I'm not thinking first of you did wrong, physical discipline. I'm thinking, all right, let me understand why you did this, because it's got to be a reason behind it. You know, the initial approach was definitely not the best. Like, why'd you do it? You know, you yelling. It's like, but I'm trying to hear you speak, but that's not going to get it done. So when it comes down to us both, we're on the same page now. Very good. Me and the wife, same page. If it has to be physical discipline, which is always the last resort at this point, because like I said, they're both getting older. And like you said, I wanted to be to the point where you follow the instructions because it's me, you know, not because I'm the adult, because I've never led you astray. I always have your best interests at heart. And I want to make sure you're good even after this, you know. Some things, I mean, I think my grandmother calls them non-negotiables, you know what I'm saying? Hey, every family has non-negotiables, but even in those, I still want to understand the thinking behind it, because, you know, you might have thought you were doing the right thing. And if that's the case, I want you to speak to that, because you might have a compelling argument that removes that whole thing out the way.
Correct.
And that's the thing about advocating. So even when my kids are in trouble, like, even though you fear or have a certain level of fear from me because of a physical discipline situation, I still want you to be able to have the comfort to say, well, this is how I was feeling. This was my thought process behind why I did this, you know, because then I'm going to be like, it's either I'm going to be like, I understand, don't do it again, or, all right, I appreciate you saying that, but here's the reason as to why this take. I do more explaining now than my parents or adults in my life ever did. And I do be feeling like a simp sometimes when I'm out here explaining these things, because it's just that never happened. And it's mind-boggling too.
Yeah. And that's why I said I feel like a soft parent, man. But it at the end of the day, I think it's the right thing to do, because you never want your kids to be fearful of you, and you don't want them to not be able to come to you if they need to, but they don't want to come to you because they're scared of you and what you might say, how you might react. But it makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I always surprise them. So they'll come with me with something crazy like, oh man, I didn't follow instructions in school, and I'll downplay it, like, all right, man, well, you know, you gotta follow directions, right? So let's make sure we don't get this phone call again. And then they'll be like, oh, word? Like, it's like, oh, I'm not about to get in trouble. Oh no, you're still in trouble. It's just
you still won't get this work, but it's
like,
just words now.
Nowadays, I'm looking at it as like, well, what's got your attention real heavy right now? You know what I'm saying? My son's game, oh, he's hurt. You take his books, oh, he's heartbroken. Like,
bro, I remember you telling me that years ago, and I couldn't understand it, but now I'm a reader, and I get it. I get it now. I was never a reader as a kid. Like, I was an awful reader as a kid, but I love reading now. I'm terrible. It was terrible. It was bad. It was really bad.
Shoot, reading helped me escape. So I tried to make sure that's a last resort for my son, because I could be sitting in legitimate, I hate to say it like this, legitimate hell at home. But if I got a book, that book would take me places that I'm like, man, it don't seem that bad right now. Like where I'm at. Even though it could be burning all around. I just be like, yo, this is crazy. You ever read The Giver? Like I'll start throwing out random stuff. That's probably where my son get it from too. So, but yeah, man, I find out what's their best interest, what has their heart. If I take my daughter's iPad, oh, she's lost for the day. Like she's upset. That really hurts. So I do those things more than try to think about, you know, how I was raised. And I think the nurturing thing really does come from my wife's family, because I've seen it in play. And then also watching her in action, because my kids can have some of the craziest news. They'll go tell mom, like, because it's mom. Mom is always going to hear them out. So I want to make sure that I'm on the same receiving end. Because if mom's not available, hey man, I am here. I don't know if you know, but I'm taking part in this raising. So talk to me.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. What was I going to ask you? So I'm a big routine guy. As far as like what me and my son, we have certain routines that we do together. And one thing I'm incorporating now is I enjoy just sitting down, just talking to him. We can be talking about absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And before it used to be like, all right, I got this to do. I'm thinking when we're talking, all right, I got this to do. I got that to do. I got this to do. But now I'm like, yo, this is so important because I remember, even though I didn't live with my dad, that we used to just drive and just talk. That was it. And I used to love it. And then he dropped me back off, and then I'll be like, all right, when's the next time you're gonna come pick me up? Because we needed to drive and talk.
Yeah.
And just being able to do that brought me happiness. So I'm like, you know what, let me try this instead of talking to him about stuff that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
How was your day? Tell me about it. What did you do? What was the best part of, whatever. So what routines do you have, if any, with your kids?
So we're building those right now. Like my daughter is very good at. I try to make sure we have family dinner because it's just a reconnect.
That's tough for us. That's tough, bro.
It's actually very tough. But that's why we try to. When we're going to do something new as like a routine for family, we try to do it in the summertime when there's less hectic of a schedule for everyone.
Sure.
But it's still hard. I ain't gonna lie to you to just get the whole. It's only 4 people. You would think that it's like 50, but we try to make sure we have dinner. My daughter, like clockwork, will say, "So, what was everyone's favorite part of the day?" Like she does it every time.
Bro, I could totally see her saying that.
So the same stuff that y'all get in public, we're getting that at home. She's practicing on us. So I definitely try to make sure that we are building up constant communication. That's a routine that I want to make sure that we have, even if it's small talk. Like if my son starts up a conversation about one of his games, I'm about to dive deep into this game now. Why do you like this game so much, man? Like, what's so special about it,
Yeah.
And I'll try to downplay something of it to make him talk more. And it works every time, like a charm. My daughter just likes to talk. So she's we can have a conversation about flies and she'd be completely fine with it. And I realized my dad was a talker too. So when I started just saying, it's kind of sad to say, when I basically came up with the attitude of, I don't even care no more. I'm just about to start letting you know how this is. He was already prepared for it too. So he was like, hey man, that's fine. As long as you're respectful. That was his only thing. But he would talk, So now I'm doing the same thing with them. And I'm just trying to make sure that it's always geared towards what's their interest right now or what has their attention. So that way I'm in the know. I never want to get into a situation where I don't know what's on my child's mind. That's a scary thing to me, especially when you hear of like different things taking place, mass school shootings, things like that. I never want to be like, well, what's my son doing in this room, all of this time? And he's doing something crazy. First off, you can't shut the door in my house. Second,
I like that.
That's everybody's house. Like but also, it's like, hey man, this is what's going on, man. Let's have a conversation. So far, that's it. But I'm sure it's going to change as they get on.
That's one thing I'm learning, bro. Is like the pivots, bro. Like you do one thing one way for a long period of time, and then you realize that the people that you're doing it with, they change. So then you got to kind of change up your approach and how you do certain things. And one thing that you brought up, which was, bro, I'm gonna be honest, man. We're struggling with it. Is eating dinner together. Like I think we're so busy just doing. At the end of the day, what are we doing? Like we're chasing our dreams, we're chasing our goals, and like he's in there now, playing his video game, and then he might have ate, 2 hours before. And I'm like, all right, well, dinner's done. I'm not really hungry right now.
Yeah.
All right, well, just come sit with me and eat. Or if I'm not hungry, I'll sit with him and eat. if my wife's home, hey, come on downstairs. Let's at least sit down. So like 2 weeks ago or so, we were like, all right, well, I said, like, listen, we got to start eating together because this is getting ridiculous now. But just something simple like that, it's hard, bro.
No, it is, man. That's why, we have a family restaurant at this point. You know what I'm saying? Red Robin,
Okay.
Red Robin. So anytime we go there, it's us. So that's always the good thing. But my wife, who said something to me a long time ago, and she reiterates it here and there, especially when the business gets real busy, and I just be like, I'm gonna be in the office. Like, she basically says that she doesn't like feeling, she feels bad basically when I walk in the house and go straight to the office or straight to a computer. So it's basically like I'm ignoring them. And I never want to do that. I never want to feel neglected, because I all too well know what that feels like.
For sure.
So
yeah.
Nowadays, since I set my schedule, it'll be like at a certain time, if my wife says I'm cooking dinner tonight, oh, well, I know we're about to eat dinner together, because I just want to. And at this point, it's purposeful. I like, even if we have just random conversations about anything, it's just the fact that we're all saying, I think we are all important enough to come together at this one time, break some bread, have a conversation, and then, okay, we go our separate ways, cool, but we at least had a moment today to talk. Let's try to repeat it tomorrow. Let's try to repeat it after that. Does it happen every day? No, it does not.
Yeah.
When it does happen, it's purposeful.
Yeah. Now it's good. I think it's good to have these conversations, because I think just like with being a father, being a husband, when things happen, you feel like it's only happening to you.
Yeah.
Until you talk to other people and realize that you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really, really important to have these conversations to, kind of mastermind and come up with different ideas on how to do certain things that you may be struggling with. And I think the misconception is like, people are doing well, but somebody's struggling with something. I don't know what it is. Like eating dinner together, that's our thing. Like we're struggling with that, probably among other things. But I think it's very important to have these conversations, man. I got one more question for you, bro. This has been a phenomenal episode, bro. Like you dropped a lot of information that I think is going to help a lot of people. And that's, again, another reason why we're having this conversation, because being a father is tough. And if you don't have an example of what a father is, because you may not have had one, hopefully this platform will also help with that as well. Yeah. It's highlighting you and Gary and Lamar and Derek. So my question to you is, what is one lesson right now that you're currently teaching each one of your kids?
Oh man. So for my son, because I I try not to group lessons. I'm a true educator. I got lessons. But for my son, it's individuality. Right now, he is at the age of influence, and I know this working in the school and all that. But he's at the age of influence, where his peers are going to influence him a lot. So I'm trying to make sure that he knows that it's okay to stand out. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to have your own interests. And you don't have to follow through with everything that your friends do. It's going to be a lot of changes in these recent times. So the main thing that you want to do is make sure you stay true to yourself. Don't lose yourself trying to please another person. You're only 12, man. Plus, probably not going to know these people next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's middle school. Bro, it's not that deep. That's why it's a common phrase in my house. It's not that deep. For my daughter, I want her to know that she can be herself. It's almost pretty much the same thing, but like the personalities of both of my kids are very different. My son's a little bit more reserved. My daughter's a lot more outspoken, extrovert, if you will. So I want her to know that, because I used to complain about it a lot. Like, you don't need to talk to everybody. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. But realizing that's her, like as loud of a personality as I can have at times, why would I want this little girl to feel like she can't have the same thing? just because of age, not really. No, I want her to be comfortable as a girl, be comfortable as a Black girl, and be comfortable as a voice of her generation, which is essentially what I see for her. She's definitely going to be a humanitarian. She's going to be out here saving lives and with just her words. So the fact that she can do that is going to be great. And I know my son's greatness is tied to his confidence. So that individuality thing, the more confident he is, the stronger he is. So I need him to know that you great, both of them, I guess it is the same lesson. You're both great at what you do now. Focus in on yourself, believe in yourself. You always have support. Regardless, if you're in the wrong, you still have support. I'm never not going to be there. Your mom's never not going to be there. Because I know I've had to stand in some situations where it's like, man, could use a little bit of extra support right now in this. And then of course, first thing you think of is, oh, where's my dad? Or where's mom? And for me, coming up, most of the people that did a lot of the encouragement were women. So hold a special place in my heart for them.
Sure.
So, I don't like seeing a woman in distress, but it's like, that's just pretty much where it is, man, for the kids. I gotta make sure that I'm giving them what I didn't have, but also giving them what they need.
Facts.
So I think that's really big, because I heard you say that the other day. We can give the kids what we never had, but is that what they really want? I have no idea. That's why I ask, man. I feel like we can't be scared to just ask the kids. I know you feel soft sometimes because it's like, you're a kid, you don't know what you want. Like, some instances there are I would rather get 10 or 9, like, I knew you wasn't interested in these, and find that one thing that captivates their attention, than never do it at all. And then now I don't know their interests. Now I really don't. Do I know my kid is a question I got to ask myself now. So it's, man, that's the lesson in trying.
That's what's up, bro. Listen, man. Again, I said it before. You're a dope dad, and hopefully this interview will shed some light on you as a person, how you parent, the lessons that you learned over the years, the lessons that you learned from as a kid. And it's no excuse for you to have bad parents and for you to continue that pattern by being a bad parent. And parenting is hard enough, but we got to build those relationships with our kids. We got to give them the things that we didn't have, but at the same time, we got to tie those lessons in. And I think that's what I got from this interview, that you didn't allow that to stop you from being the parent that you probably always wanted.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it now, like, I guess not to make excuses for my parents, but
nah, go ahead.
They were just trying to figure it out, bro. And they did a horrible job. But
you crazy.
Hey, not to sound too crazy, but not for real though. I mean, I won't say they did a horrible job, but it just is more so like, I think about my birth certificate. My dad was 23, my mom was 20 when I was born. So I'm thinking about myself at 23 and 20, I had no idea what was going on. Right now, for my mom's sake, of course, she went down a pathway with drugs and things like that. And that really turned her to just not being a parent at all. My dad his was unfortunately was a choice. He chose to leave. He chose to go military, try to figure himself out. But again, he was 23 years old. I graduated college for the first time at 23. And when I graduated, I had ideas of what I wanted to do, but I didn't have any concrete anything. So I try not to, and I learned this because of my kids asking questions about my parents. So it's like, I can either explain this person to you and make it sound really bad and pass on my trauma and pain, or I can just say, well, here's this person, hopefully we'll get you to be able to meet them. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them, It comes with that, saying, my daughter's wild though. So she was like, well, one day she asked me, do I have a mom? So that was crazy. So I was like, how would I get here? But no. So she was like, when I see your mom, I'm going to ask her, where were you? And I was like, oh, my mom's old school, so ask
a
different way. You know what I'm saying? So, but then the crazy part was my kids are good readers. When they finally met my mother at a old enough age to understand like people, more compassionate than I probably would have ever been. So I was
great.
like, that's what's up. We're doing something right. You know what I mean? And I guess I should be happy and proud of the fact that I'm not passing down that hurt and shame.
For sure.
But you don't know that until you get to the situation, man. That's why that's parenting is like the greatest experiment.
Yeah, 100%. And one other thing is that I think we're constantly doing, and we never poke our heads up to see how much we've actually achieved and accomplished through God's grace and blessing us in spite of what we came through. And again, this is why we're highlighting these things, because I know how it is to just do. And then people say, oh, well, you did this. And I'm like, I'm too busy just focusing on the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be recognized for that. And you need to be recognized for that. And all the other fathers out here who are doing their thing need to be recognized for that. Because there's a lot of people who are not, because of past traumas and things that they've gone through and stuff like that. And again, you did not allow it to be an excuse for you not to be the parent that you've always wanted.
Very true. And I'll say, well, first off, I think you're doing great with acknowledging these things. And normally, old me, because I'm working on this, would be like, oh, no, man, you know what I'm saying? God, I would give a shout out to this person. You know, I would do that. But, I appreciate it, man. Because, you know, I'm pretty sure most fellas can relate to the fact that you probably question the job you're doing as a parent, as a husband, and everything. So, you know, to get some type of confirmation that I'm moving in the right direction is encouraging. It's very encouraging. Unbeknownst to everybody, man, you see me joking and stuff like that, but every day I'm concerned if I'm doing the right thing as a father, as a husband, as an entrepreneur, all of that. So these are constant thoughts that I have. So I do appreciate the opportunity. You know, I try not to sound too preachy or too philosophical with the wordplay, but I'm a poet. I can't even.
I see what you did there. I see.
Man, listen, you know what I'm saying? God, and all the time. So.
Nah, but I appreciate you being on the podcast, bro, and just dropping the wisdom and the nuggets and sharing your life story, bro. Because that's not easy to do either, especially when you've been through, you know, traumatic experiences. But again, the good news is you made the decision to do something different, so your outcome for your kids and yourself will be different. And again, you need to be applauded for that. And if you're struggling out there, if you're struggling out there as a parent, you don't have to repeat the patterns that you saw or that you experienced growing up. You can stop. You have options to stop. You just have to make the decision to stop. And there are people out here like James, like myself, who've been through, you know, and I'm sure many other people have been through, you know, different traumatic experiences, but they came out on the other side and they decided to do something different.
Absolutely.
What's good, family? So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that episode, man. We unpacked some stuff on that episode, but hopefully it was impactful for you as well.
None other. Yo, what up? It's Dr. James Daniels III, the owner and operator of Don't Judge Me Productions, and I'm here for the Chest Support Challenge. So let's get right into it. All right, so the first question we're going to answer is, who are you? Don't Judge Me Productions is a photography and videography company. We offer a wide variety of services in both of those particular areas. That could be anywhere from a few headshots, prom photos, all the way up to feature films, documentaries, you name it, we film it, just like the hashtag says. But of course, it also has to be kid friendly. Not only do we provide those particular services, we like to collaborate with our client. We want to make sure that whatever your vision is, and it's our vision, we collaborate and we bring that to life. Hence why our motto is bringing your creativity to life.
Make sure before you go, you like and subscribe to the podcast. if you feel like it has added value to your life, make sure that you share it. Who knows who it may help? Sure, you know people that this could help. So make sure you share it, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.